Channel 9, you need a sound check? Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing, testing. All right.
Anybody need a minute? Great. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Jeff Jackson, relatively new Attorney General here in North Carolina, joined by Attorney General Alan Wilson of South Carolina, Lieutenant Sprague of CMPD, and we're here to discuss a new effort. The second largest messaging platform in the world is called WeChat. It is owned by a Chinese company. It is used by over 1 billion people, including several million in the United States. But it's more than just a messaging platform. It also features encrypted communication and built-in payment features. We believe that WeChat is being used to facilitate money laundering on a massive scale, specifically money laundering tied to the fentanyl trade. And we're here to stop it. Evidence strongly suggests that WeChat has allowed itself to become an enormous digital pipeline for money laundering that fuels the fentanyl trade. By allowing that to continue, WeChat is essentially helping to bankroll the fentanyl epidemic. This must stop. Today, we are giving WeChat 30 days to show us specific steps that they are taking to address this. And they should know this. There's a very good reason why this is a bipartisan effort. In addition to myself and Attorney General Wilson, we are also joined by Attorney General Lynn Fitch of Mississippi, Attorney General John Formella of New Hampshire, Attorney General Matt Platkin of New Jersey, and Attorney General Phil Weiser of Colorado. That's 6 attorneys general, 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats from across the country. That's because fentanyl is poisoning people in every state. In our state, overdoses are the leading cause of death for people my age and younger. We are losing an average of 6 people per day to fentanyl. We believe that WeChat bears significant responsibility because their platform helps cartels get paid. Here's how it works. Step 1, China sells the chemical ingredients to the cartels, and the cartels produce the fentanyl. Step 2, fentanyl is smuggled into the US and sold for cash. Step 3, that cash is handed off to Chinese brokers who use WeChat to route the money back to the cartels, and the cycle starts over. We've made a copy of our letter to WeChat available to all of you. It includes extensive citations, including the 2021 conviction of Mr. Li, who managed an international criminal network using WeChat to coordinate bulk cash transfers between Chinese banks and drug cartels. Operation Chem Capture in 2023, in which 8 companies and 12 individuals were indicted for trafficking fentanyl precursor chemicals, with the transactions being coordinated through WeChat. Extensively documented collaboration between Mexico's Sinaloa cartel and Chinese laundering networks, and a recent 2024 federal indictment in South Carolina that Attorney General Wilson will speak to. At this point, the pattern is clear. WeChat is being used to coordinate cash pickups in U.S. cities, arrange currency swaps between traffickers and Chinese money brokers, and move funds through layers of transactions to get money back to the cartels. We estimate that we are talking about billions of dollars per year. As a congressional commission recently found, Chinese money launderers leverage encrypted mobile communication apps like WeChat to move vast sums of money from the United States to China, then back to Mexico with great speed, discretion, and efficiency. One DEA agent put it more bluntly by saying, "It is all happening on WeChat. The launderers aren't even concealing themselves." And in North Carolina, due to a recent law passed by our state legislature, facilitating money laundering is now a crime. As of today, WeChat has exactly 30 days to tell us what steps they are taking to stop criminal money laundering on their platform. And now I'll turn it over to Attorney General Wilson, for whom I am very grateful that he joined this effort and did so enthusiastically. His office has made combating fentanyl one of its highest priorities, and I'm extremely grateful that he's joined us here today. Sir.
Thank you. I first want to start by thanking Attorney General Jeff Jackson for your leadership on this issue and for the conversations that we've had in your first few months in office. You've hit the ground running on this issue. When people come up to me, and I frequently get asked, what's the issue that keeps you up at night? And there are a lot of issues that could keep me up at night, but the one that always comes to the tip of my tongue the fastest is the fentanyl epidemic in this country. Everybody knows someone either personally or within 1 or 2 degrees of separation where a family has lost a young person or someone has died as an overdose as a result of the illicit fentanyl trafficking going on in our respective states. In South Carolina, it has been a major issue for me. When you look at the I-85 corridor, the I-75 corridor, the I-95 corridor, and the I-20 corridor, these are all major arteries into South Carolina. And of course, the I-85 corridor, which travels right from Atlanta all the way here in Charlotte. When I've spoken to both state and federal officials that are combating the fentanyl trafficking around the country, they have told me that Atlanta is a major hub for drug trafficking in this country. A lot of it's coming up in coordination with the cartels in Mexico, and it's coming up through Atlanta, and the I-85 corridor is pouring into the upstate of South Carolina, right here into North Carolina. And so in the upstate of South Carolina, we call that the front porch of South Carolina for drug trafficking. Last January, our first press conference of the year was a multi-jurisdictional press conference with local, state, and federal officials with our office announcing over 300 charges against 64 defendants trafficking in 1.5 kilos of meth and 1 kilo of fentanyl. They believe that there were 500 kilos, historically speaking, on that one drug trafficking case, all of it originating in Mexico in coordination with the Mexican drug cartels. I have been told by federal officials that there is a strong belief that the Chinese are supporting a lot of the fentanyl labs in Mexico. At least that is their belief. And so when Jeff called me and invited me to be a co-signatory to this letter, I jumped at the opportunity because this is an issue that all states need to understand and need to recognize. When you look at fentanyl as an epidemic, I think it is the leading killer of people between the ages of 18 and 45. And I saw somewhere 74,000 people over the last year or two have died as a result of fentanyl. I'll double check that number, but it is a leading killer among ages 18 to 45. As I said a moment ago, that one drug trafficking case, we seized 1 kilo of fentanyl. I talked to the DEA. They have informed me that 1 kilo of fentanyl is enough to kill 500,000 people. 1 kilo of fentanyl, something the size of a VHS tape. For those of you old enough to know what a VHS tape is. That is a kilo of fentanyl. One of those is enough to kill 500,000 people. And that, we have historically seen hundreds of kilos pouring into our state, to the south of here, into South Carolina. So this is something that's very important to me. When General Jackson and I talked about the need to raise awareness as to WeChat's involvement in facilitating Chinese money launderers working hand in glove with Mexican drug cartels that are facilitating the peddling of this poison into our 2 states and the states around us throughout this country. It was a no-brainer. And I've spoken to many other AGs who are very supportive of this, and we're going to see AGs taking basically a step up on the front lines to combat this illicit type of activity. WeChat needs to, and I fully 100% support what General Jackson said, that we need answers, we need them now. As you know, when I talk about other issues, whether it's human trafficking or especially when I'm talking about child sex exploitation, one of the things that I have said constantly is when you look at the internet or when you look at AI, when it comes to child exploitation, you know, I always remind people that AI is today in 2025 what the internet was in 1995, a new and innovative technology that will change the world in ways we can't even imagine. Well, the same is true in this type of case. The internet has grown so fast in the last 30 years that we never dreamed of the social media platforms. We never dreamed of the technologies that would change our world, to change the way we recreate, change the way we communicate, change the way we educate, change the way that we work together. But it also has provided a medium, a venue for those who mean to exploit our laws. And so the laws have got to catch up. The people like the folks at WeChat are using the internet to evolve how they launder money, to evolve how they evade detection by law enforcement, to evolve how they promote this type of illicit activity. And so we have to evolve with them. That is why sending this letter to WeChat and working together in a bipartisan manner is so important to me, to go after these folks, to send a clear message that we're not going to take this, we're not going to allow it to continue. Just last month, in fact, the day after it was announced at the U.S. Attorney's Office, there were several people indicted for money laundering efforts using WeChat. And this is at the federal level with our federal partners in Colombia. Literally the next day, I got a text message from General Jackson congratulating us. Appreciated that, Jeff. But again, I am here today because fentanyl is the issue of the day. It is an issue that we need to be cognizant of. We need to educate our respective constituencies here in North and South Carolina. People need to understand that this stuff is prolific. There's an epidemic, and internet companies like WeChat are being used by Chinese money launderers and other types of criminals. It's being used by the Mexican drug cartels. It's being used by gangs. It's being used by people to conduct illicit activities, and we need for them to be held to account for their role. What do they know? When do they know? And what are they going to do about it? And if not, then we need to take proactive steps to hold companies like WeChat accountable so that we can cut them off from facilitating this type of criminal activity. So again, I'm going to end where I began by thanking the Attorney General from North Carolina for facilitating this press conference and leading this letter. And you'll be hearing from both the two of us as well as other AGs in the weeks and months to come as we take the next steps to go after and get answers from WeChat. So thank you again, General, and I'm going to hand it back to you to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to underscore one thing General Wilson said, because he's absolutely right. We're seeing an evolution with respect to organized crime and how they're using the digital space. Mm-hmm. Usually when people think about the proceeds, the cash from drug sales, they're thinking about duffel bags full of cash. Increasingly, that's not the case anymore. These duffel bags full of cash now exist in the digital space. And there are platforms that should know better and should protect us from this, who are allowing this to occur. And we believe the leading platform that is allowing this to occur is WeChat. So as organized crime moves into the digital space, that's where we have to pursue them, into the digital space. Not only is this going to be an effort with WeChat, but my sense as a new Attorney General is this is going to be one of the new frontiers for investigation and prosecution. I'm joined here by Lieutenant Sprague. This is someone who has been on the ground with this effort, is one of the point people for CMPD with respect to the effort to combat fentanyl. He's taught me a lot personally about what he's seeing on the ground as far as trends and forms and sources. I'm really honored that he's here with us, and I really just appreciate the years that he has dedicated to serving his community and keeping us safe. Lieutenant Sprague.
Good morning. My name is Lieutenant Robert Sprague. I am with CMPD's Investigative Services Group. As Attorney General Jeff Jackson noted, we are here to discuss how money laundering plays a part in sustaining and expanding the deadly fentanyl epidemic. As you are aware, fentanyl is the leading cause of overdose deaths in our state, and money laundering is a key contributor to financing and sustaining this epidemic. Money laundering allows these criminal networks and drug traffickers to hide their tracks to legitimize their operation in order to move their illicit profit and further expand distribution of fentanyl. What the public might not know is that the drug money is made to look like legitimate funds coming in and going out. This in turn is challenging to detect and making suspicious transactions less apparent. These drug trafficking organizations typically distribute fentanyl by the kilogram. Just 1 kilogram of this substance, as noted earlier, has the potential to kill nearly 500,000 people. While CMPD's Vice Unit and others within our organization do an excellent job investigating and seizing these operations, this type of activity occurs across the country and internationally, often passing through surrounding jurisdictions before ultimately reaching Charlotte. From January 1st, 2025 to April 30th, 2025, there have been 44 overdose deaths in our jurisdiction. This number reflects a 41% decrease in overdose deaths during the same time frame in 2024. A significant drop, but still too many lives lost to this drug. There were 75 total overdose deaths in 2024 from January to April. 86% of those deaths were fentanyl-related. While confirmed fentanyl-related overdose deaths in 2025 are still pending final verification, we are confident that fentanyl continues to be a serious issue both in our jurisdiction and across the nation. So far in 2025, CMPD has received 600 overdose calls for service, which is an 11% increase from this time last year. CMPD officers and specialized units do an outstanding job of removing counterfeit prescription medications off the streets of Charlotte, many of which are laced with fentanyl. Narcan deployment and distribution has played a significant role in reducing fentanyl deaths in our jurisdiction. Back in 2023, CMPD launched a fentanyl awareness campaign aimed at reducing fentanyl overdose deaths. The department saw a 30% decrease in fentanyl-related overdose in Charlotte in 2023 and a 75% decrease in 2024. Addressing the fentanyl crisis requires a complex approach that includes targeting the financial mechanism that enables it. By disrupting the flow of illicit funds, we can weaken these operations and reduce the availability of fentanyl in our area, and ultimately reducing the deaths. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, I have one. With WeChat being a Chinese-based app, are you able to take legal action if they don't comply with your request?
If they don't comply with our request, we believe that we have a range of options for escalation. For a number of reasons, we're choosing not to detail what those options are, but we strongly encourage them to respond. And I hope they see the breadth of this initial effort as a small piece of what may be in store for them if they choose not to comply.
And with this being a cross-state network of drug activity, what are some of the limitations you have at the state level, and how can federal support help?
That's an excellent question. In North Carolina, we have our own set of criminal laws, and we have our own criminal investigators that give us an ability to protect ourselves. We are, however, very, very appreciative and beneficial and benefited from the partnerships because they also bring to bear their own laws and their own investigatory capacity. So bringing these other state AGs is useful from a jurisdictional standpoint, useful from an investigatory standpoint as well. General Wilson and I have also been in touch with federal law enforcement partners who are all over this. WeChat has been a big bright spot on their radar for quite some time. We've had personal conversations with them where they've been able to give us extra detail about reasons why this is an urgent threat, and we anticipate a number of ways that they could be partners going forward.
There was discussion at one point to shut down this app similar to TikTok. Do you think that that should be back on the table?
I think in the discussion between the United States and China, fentanyl is always going to be a major piece of that dynamic because China plays a couple of major roles in fueling this crisis. As I said, I think there are a range of options for how to escalate this matter if escalation is required.
If I may.
Please.
I always tell folks there are three types of remedies you can get from the government. You can get legal remedies, you can get administrative remedies, and you can get political remedies. Legal remedies are obviously indictment, lawsuits, et cetera. That's where the AGs come in. Administrative remedies are remedies of law that you can get through the administrative process and bureaucracies of government. And then political remedies are where the policymakers reside in the legislative branches of government and those enforcement agencies that enforce state and federal laws. General Jackson and I, obviously, we talked about the cross-border collaboration that AGs are playing. Obviously, we are talking with our respective counterparts at the federal level, but also in Congress. Congress has, and you talked about TikTok, there is a role for Congress to play from the policy and the legislative standpoint. That would be under the political rubric that I talked about. Political meaning people hearing from their constituencies, hearing from their state AGs, and then implementing laws or policies at the federal level that would help us combat the fentanyl trafficking at the state level. Just like him, I don't want to go into all of the multitude of courses of actions that we could take in any one of those three remedies, whether it be legislative or political, or whether it be administrative or certainly legal. But we reserve all of those courses of action in our arsenal of options and are prepared to take them. But again, giving WeChat and other like platforms an opportunity to explain themselves is the first step in the process of that decision tree. So that's kind of where I am. I think I'm echoing the sentiments that General Jackson just said.
And Attorney General, this can feel like a massive thing, but I know that you've done a lot of work, you all have, to try to address this. Talk about some of the things that you've been able to accomplish toward fighting this issue.
Well, I mean, obviously, working at the federal level, there are national things we can do at the national level, and obviously I know that General Jackson and the legislature and Governor Stein and others are probably making decisions here for North Carolina. But in South Carolina, we just lobbied for, advocated for, and got a homicide by fentanyl law passed into effect. Basically, there are people out there knowingly selling drugs laced with fentanyl that they know will kill someone. And we have been using murder as an indictment to charge those people. But now we have a law that is on the governor's desk that when our governor in South Carolina signs it, it will give us the ability to seek up to 30 years for people who knowingly sell fentanyl-laced drugs. Obviously, we have mandatory minimums in our state for fentanyl trafficking now, and a much more aggressive approach to going after fentanyl in our state. So we passed a number of legislative bills that will give law enforcement and prosecutors the tools at the state level. We have multi-jurisdictional task force and working groups in South Carolina, and obviously because he and I are here today, it shows that there's a cross-border coordination effort going on at the state level as well as at the federal level. So I think AGs and local and state and federal law enforcement throughout this country are really starting to take a holistic approach when dealing with this issue. But again, I'm focusing on South Carolina in one hand as to getting the most stringent and aggressive laws passed that we possibly can to go after fentanyl trafficking and the illicit money laundering that supports it. At the same time, I'm working with our law enforcement as well as cross-border partners like the officials here in North Carolina, Georgia, and beyond to try to have a holistic, basically, pushback against what's going on out there in the fentanyl trade. I hope that answers your question. Okay, thank you for it. It was a good question.
I'd like to ask a question to the NPD officer. We're talking about this from a large scale, but you're every day working at the very person-to-person level, trying to support people. Talk about how challenging it is for you and what support you think you may need as an officer to help combat this.
Well, we continue to work with both our local, state, and federal partners to kind of close those gaps maybe in the law that had been mentioned earlier, that we're trying to catch up with a lot of these trends that we're seeing and a lot of the changes. So we continue to work in a partnership with them to facilitate new laws, to find where we can close those gaps. But it's challenging on a day-to-day basis. But we have some really great men and women that work in Charlotte that are dedicated to the cause and being out there to seize as much of this drug that we can and to arrest as many people as we can and save as many lives as we can, which is ultimately the goal here. So.
My last question, and anyone can answer, you talked about the amount of lives that are impacted by this. What is your message to those folks who are maybe listening that have been directly impacted by
I know families who have lost loved ones because of the fentanyl crisis we have going on in this country. And my message to the families and the people out there in our communities, North Carolina, South Carolina, we hear you, we understand you, and we are being proactive. We are going as aggressively as we can as law enforcement officials to, you know, at the state and federal level to go after these people. My message to the people out there who are facilitating fentanyl trafficking through apps and platforms like WeChat or other platforms that we don't yet know about, my message to those people out there trying to exploit our communities and facilitate fentanyl trafficking through this illicit money laundering practice is this: we're coming for you. This is just the first step in a long war against fentanyl trafficking, as well as other illicit conduct. So we are coming for you. There is nowhere for you to hide. It's just a matter of time. But again, it's going to require all of us working together in a bipartisan fashion to take a holistic, I mean, listen, they are holistically trying to traffic this fentanyl in. We have to have a holistic approach to going after it. It's going to be on the ground with folks like Lieutenant Sprague, Sprague, excuse me. I knew I was going to butcher it. Lieutenant Sprague and people like him on the ground. It's going to take people like General Jackson and myself at the state level, and it's going to take our federal partners, all working together to holistically address this issue. And again, I'm truly grateful for my neighbor to the north here for having me here today to participate and to be part of the letter, which I fully 100% endorse, and we'll be getting other AGs engaged as we move forward. General Jackson.
Perfect. Would agree with all of that, and would add only one point to the young people at home. I just need you to understand, because of fentanyl, there is just no such thing as safe experimentation with drugs. Lieutenant Sprague will tell you, fentanyl is in everything. It's in stuff that is being advertised as not having fentanyl in it, but the vast majority of drugs that they're taking in are laced with this drug, and a very small amount can be deadly. So watch out for yourself, watch out for your friends. Don't take any unnecessary risks. This is not how you want to mess up your entire life. And to folks who are considering trying to make a quick buck off of selling fentanyl, understand you run the risk of spending years of your life in prison. So you better think twice. As you can see, we are making this a top priority. Keep that in mind and reconsider your choices. Very grateful for everyone who chose to join us. Thank you to CMPD. Certainly thank you to Attorney General Wilson. See you all soon. I think these are yours. Whose are these?
Those are mine. Okay, mine are in my pocket. You're not there yet, but you will be.
One of these days.
It's coming. How old are you now?
42.
Oh, you got at least 3 more years before you need these. When I turn 45, I can see the hair on the neck. But now, these are one. I started off at ones. These are 175. This started creeping up on me. I can tell right now it's starting. I really need to get you socialized so you're. What was your mood here? You're JFK. That's where I was. I was the state SJ 5 years ago. I need to get you socialized to national guard because you are a resource. So I'd be happy to help. Sure.
Thanks. Yeah.
By the way, you're the new director.